Yeah.
right, so how do you see this as sort of a non-tech person?
So I one, I mean, like it was, I think it was, I understand kind of, I'm starting to understand more and more of why it happened and what the cause of it was. Um, it's shocking and let's call it, I don't know, distasteful for users whenever it just like jumps up into your timeline and cuts off you being able to use Twitter. I don't think that was executed well. That would be my statement. Because nobody knew anything about it, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's just like, oh, Twitter's just shut down. Like you just can't, like there's limits now. And then Elon addressed it, and I think he did a good job of addressing it and explaining why, and then also reacting quickly to adjust those limits so that people weren't as impacted, right?
Yeah, and in case this wasn't clear, we're referring to the restriction on how many tweets you can view a day. No, I think it's
And to be clear, those were, if you were blue verified, it was 6,000.
right.
If you were a signed in verified user, it was like 600. And if you were like a new user, it's like 300. And then they bumped those to,
Bumped
oh,
them twice, I think, because
yeah, they
it was
bumped them
like
twice. It's
eight
like 4,
thousand,
8, and 8, 400, 800, and 8,000. And then they bumped it again to 500, 1,000, and like 10,000.
10,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
which are much more reasonable numbers, right?
I mean, I don't know. It seems
Like,
to be because I like nobody seems to be complaining about the throttling anymore. So my guess is that they just didn't do the due diligence well in determining what that number should be in order to set that limit, and they just picked something and were like, yeah, we should. This is probably good, and underestimated the people who are heavy users that may not be verified as to how much they're actually scrolling through their Twitter and looking at things.
yeah, I
But
mean, as a coming from the perspective of a web application engineer, I completely get it. Like, you have a lot of tech issues. You have trying to handle server overload. There's not a lot you can do other than throttle, at least as a temporary workaround. This seemed like the most kind of using tech parlance, naive way of doing this. Um, like it just didn't incorporate any knowledge from the system, didn't incorporate any analytics or statistics, and kind of felt very clumsy. And that I thought was sort of the most annoying part of that, in my opinion. Like it it could have been done a lot. Like he could have planned this better. I don't think they were going to be just completely screwed over if they waited a day. Now maybe not. Maybe they were completely caught off guard and they were worried about complete server crash. Um,
well, I mean,
but
from what I've seen, it sounds like it was a response to the big thing that I've heard is data scraping, which is
yeah,
absolutely, from what I understand, is absolutely enormous and is really taxing on those assets. And there's even been some people who have, you know, put forth ideas that it may have been being done intentionally to try to bankrupt Twitter because of the cost, because there's a cost associated with any data going in and any data going out. And so if they're doing these mass scrapes of data, then, you know, that could potentially cost them millions of dollars annually.
yes,
And, you know, plus it also would, I would imagine, slow down it again, not tech person's over
sure.
there. Um, but would slow down your servers and slow down like what your, you know, your retrieval rates and all that kind of fun stuff are. And so that was my understanding, is that it was like, okay, we need to, and
Yeah,
people were making a lot of money off of scraping the Twitter data for free. And so like, I don't blame Elon of being like, hey, no, you need to pay me for that instead of it costing me money. And I just think that it was, again, I think it was poorly executed, but I think that it makes sense once it's explained and you understand the hows and
Yeah,
whys and what
it
you would do.
the like it is a very real, like this should be regarded as an attack on the network, because people think of Twitter as this software. It's not. I mean, that is not what Twitter really is. It's first and foremost, like, the main offering of it at its core is a network. The tech is not that special. In fact, it's, you give me a team of 30 engineers and I can make probably better, and from a just interface based software perspective, better technology in 6 months. Um, what Twitter has that is really of value is the network, the users, the actual connection network, the computers, everything, all of that. That is of value, and this is an attack on the network. Not just in the immediate sense, but also in the secondary sense. Is if you're scraping a lot of data, you can start to, especially in the age of AI, you can start to pull out patterns and trends and use that to manipulate the network. So having a handle on who's doing this is essential, because otherwise you could have somebody who wants the network to do what it wants, which is kind of what happened prior to Elon, is they had their fingers all in that. You got to believe that they're going to be trying everything they can to claw that back. So it is an essential thing for them to combat. As far as to why it's happened, a couple people have pointed to the fact that this is approximately the time that their Google Cloud contract expired, and they're not re-upping, at least not in the same capacity. Which there's people are pointing to things like state actors that may have had backdoors into Google Cloud that didn't need to scrape beforehand, um, and doing stuff like that. As you know, other theories are that it's people who don't want to be seen as being on Twitter. So people that are like, no, I'm not on Twitter anymore. Yeah, I'm boycotting Twitter, but they can't let it go because that's where everything's happening right now. Especially since Elon got back. I mean, I in my personal experience, it seems like a lot of these other Gab, whatever, has really died down in
Yeah.
user base, because why? The only competitor might be Truth Social, simply because of Donald Trump. Um, but
Yeah, that'd be my estimation too.
yeah, so he's going to have to get a handle on why it's happening, and I think that I think he's got to look more into using this as a way to uh, improve behavior of users. And I mean that in like reward participation, find ways of rewarding users that produce the content that keeps people there and makes people want to use the network, improves the quality of the network,
Hmm.
and sort of, and find a way to almost like really some kind of Twitter coin type thing might be useful, where
Like
you
Shiba Inu.
uh,
It's not
I
financial
actually,
advice.
I
Just
mean,
saying.
frankly, Doge.
Or
They should
Doge.
just
Yeah.
integrate Doge into it and use that so people can be tipped and paid in Doge, and small amounts in Doge can be used to uh, buy more views, right? Oh, I've viewed 1,000 tweets for free every day. Well, but I can use Doge and buy another, 500 tweets or something to be added on to supplement my daily allotment or something.
Maybe.
Um,
I
it's a
don't think
little.
I don't think it's a money grab. Like there were people that were, you know, theorizing that, oh, Elon just wants everybody to sign up for Twitter Blue. Um, and that, I mean, like there may be that, but the more that I hear about it, I don't think that's the case. I think it was more of just like protecting the network and protecting the system.
I mean,
And
it's
it makes sense.
short term. They're probably right. Long term, they're indistinguishable, because if you have money, you can just buy more servers and more. You can solve the network effect by with more money, basically.
Sure.
Um, that's so there's sort of an aspect of creating a system that will solve it in the long term, where yeah, you want to charge for it, which will have the dual effect of gaining you more income as well as decreasing the amount of the people that are using Twitter. Um, but I don't know. I'm not. I think Elon's kind of sort of stuck Twitter in his back pocket and just wants it to sort of maintain there. I don't think he has a lot of plans for it other than he feels it's important to exist, and I think that's maybe part of the problem. That he's
Yeah.
like, he the CEO he hired, she's awful. Like you can just tell she's awful. Things she's brought since she's come on, I think Twitter has largely been in the decline.
I mean, potentially. I mean, I haven't noticed that much of a difference. And, you know, what little, if it, if what little difference there is, then I could say I can see that argument of like, oh yeah, it's slightly declined. But I had like, in reality, like I haven't noticed my user experience be that much different. So I don't see that that's really that big of an issue. And I think like if you were looking at it, I think that it seems like they're trying to find a good balance where everybody can have access to Twitter, can be able to be on and engage and interact, and really only those people who are just super involved and really getting out there and really messing with stuff, that those are the ones that will be basically kind of required to pay for Twitter Blue in order to get the level of access that they want. Um, and so, yeah, I think that makes sense of,
Sure. I'm more thinking from in terms of the quality, more the content being throttled, the specific topics being banned or downranked or issues arising with that. You can look at the what
I,
is the woman issue.
I mean, I have, yeah, that was I think that was a big misstep by them. But I haven't, since, besides that issue, I haven't really seen much in the way of, I mean, hell, we talked about last stream about the videos that I've seen come across Twitter that were staying up and not immediately getting nuked. And, for one of the things that we're going to talk about here in a minute is, the riots that are going on in Paris, like those things are going up and they're staying up.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's there's in some ways I haven't completely lost hope. I'm just seeing that, and I what I'm seeing now is Elon is kind of like he tried to pull away and I was like, God damn it, I can't. And he like I think that I think he's probably having I think he's having to manage the CEO, which is I think in some ways he's somewhat used to it, but I'm not sure this is what he expected. And I think I would not be surprised if next year he's looking for another CEO.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all. I mean, I think
Um,
it's interesting that he picked that CEO to begin with, but I understand kind of why he did it because she comes from the marketing world and they were trying to get advertisers back to the platform. Um, and so, okay, but then she, especially with the what is a woman issue, right? Like that went kind of off the rails. And at that point, I go, okay, well, maybe this isn't going so well. And then not only did they put it back up, they left it up for like, they were supposed to put it up for like 24 or 48 hours and they left it up for like a week.
yep,
I don't even, yeah, it may still be
that was
up. I haven't checked it
probably
at all.
directly response to fine, if you censor us, we're gonna do everything we can to make it more accessible.
Right.
Um, and I wouldn't be actually after that. There could be very real things where she may not even make it to the end of the year. Like it may be something where he's shopping around right now just because he saw that
Possibly. Yeah.
she fought him on this. He's like, this is if you're not going to be enacting my vision, you got to go.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just that was issue one. I don't know. We'll see. But I think it makes sense.
It could have just
You
been a
know,
misunderstanding of like, oh, you thought you were going to run things. Let me explain to you that's not how this is going to go. I went on this as this is going to be free speech. Expect that, and I expect you to follow that. So if this happens again, then like going to go sit in the principal's office and we're going
Yeah,
to
I
have a
mean,
strong talk.
I think
But I
what
haven't
you,
noticed any other.
but I also think it was the
Managers.
wrong direction because I think you need to not be beholden to advertisers at all. And I think that this was a capitulation to advertisers. I think instead what you need to do is look into ways of monetize. You bring a CEO who knows how to monetize networks in a way that
Sure,
is not advertising. And there's not a lot. Granted, there's not a lot of people that even have a lot of theories how to do this. I mean, I could give you my own theories on how to do it, but uh, it's like you got to look at who you want your customers to be. And I think if it's advertisers, it's gonna just it's gonna be subpar compared to what it could be without that. You know, you kind
sure,
of hinted at it where you have like if you make people that are producing like your customers should be like the people that want to reach with the network. So content creators and companies who want to, manage their market or distribute content. And then but you also have your power users that want to be able to consume massive amounts of content.
sure.
And you need to have,
And I think it's fair for you to ask those people who want to consume massive amounts of content to pay $8 a month.
sure, but you need to provide a significant, I think you need to provide a significant value offering other than you just get to consume a lot more content. If
Why?
Well, it depends on how much you charge. If it's like, I think $8 is a little much for that. Um, like I would expect something more like being able to curate the content more effectively, being able to,
You do get to the ability to edit.
ooh, um, that's like those are token things, right? Like, yeah, that's nice for power users, but these talking almost those are more of the um, content creators that benefit from that. There's not much that benefits just the users, just the people that view and consume information.
So you're
So
talking about doing like multi levels of Twitter Blue, like having Twitter Blue and Twitter Gold, which I think they have. I mean, if you're like if you are a company, then there's a different tier that you can sign on to that's evidently much more expensive.
yeah, and
And for the people that are religiously on Twitter, then I mean, $8 a month is really not that much money.
sure, I mean it's I'd say it depends on how you use it. Um, like I'm on Twitter all the time, but I'm not like talking. I'm not saying much. I'm just mostly consuming and filtering through information. And
Hmm.
there's not a lot of value in the tools that are offered by Twitter Blue to filter that information. Granted, I haven't hit that rate limit yet. Um,
Right.
so maybe we're talking
It's a
about a
non-issue.
whole extra level of that. So I'm kind of like guessing a little bit here, and
The other
it's
thing is that you don't necessarily, personally, I don't think that you see the value there, right, to you, but because you could live without Twitter and it would be fine, right?
yeah,
And a lot of people just couldn't, and they don't do that. They don't think that way. And so you kind of have like, all right, fine. Like, and anything cheaper than $8, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of an arbitrary number, but like I get it. It's not that much. And if you want to be a member, and and to be honest, like if they got to where they had most members signing up or a significant portion, then they could probably drop that price some. But
sure. And
otherwise, you're opening the floodgates to.
I mean, I agree in principle. I just think they need to offer a little bit more tools for the information consumer.
Tools like what?
Um, something to help, like something that's more about curating and filtering tweets. Like maybe you can have multiple like algorithm training sets. If that makes sense. So you have different tabs for different type of topics that you're training from an
Sure.
algorithm perspective. It's off the top of my head. You're going to have to get creative here a little bit, but something that approaches the problem from the perspective of consuming the information, as opposed to most of the Twitter Blue stuff seems to be for network outreach and content creators, which is great. You want to monetize that. I actually think that you can probably charge more for that and add more features and target the big companies more. But sounds like he's doing that.
Right. I guess my only concern is that the people that are just consuming content, that are not
Mm-hmm.
interacting, how much do you really care about what their experience truly is? Because what you really want is you want interaction. You want them putting things out there, you want them responding to things, you want them liking, retweeting, quote tweeting
From or are we talking
from a
about trying?
business perspective, from the company's perspective.
But I'm not talking about monetizing those people. I'm not talking about giving those features away for free. I'm talking about those are the premium features. Those are the things you charge for. And so that you are now monetizing your biggest cost, which is the viewers who are just consuming the information. Right? That's the biggest tie into your cost is the number of users.
Sure, but I mean, like, yeah, the problem is then you start making things, I think, too complicated. You complicate things entirely too much because then you have to have one tier that is essentially you're trying to monetize the people that are just consuming. You have another tier for people that are like more regular users, right? Personalities, stuff like that. Then you have another tier that's for businesses, right?
I mean, yeah, you could have three tiers. You could have and you could subdivide it within those tiers a little bit based on size. And I've seen it done with other software. It's not that
Right.
bad, but
But I mean, you're just talking about adding another tier that's not really necessary from a
I
company
mean,
perspective.
I would say more it's the feature sets than the true tier. The feature sets will allow you to monetize a much larger market and thus bring in a lot more revenue and one that is tied more closely to your cost structure.
Maybe.
I mean,
Is
it's
it
just an
is it
idea.
though? Is
I
somebody
think so.
scrolling through Twitter as like just viewing, just consuming? Does that cost more than the people who actually are posting on Twitter?
Um,
I don't know.
I don't think so. It's more that it's done a lot more. And you're
Okay.
already monetizing the people posting to some degree with Twitter Blue as it stands.
Right.
So I'm just saying monetize the you're
But I just
monetizing the up, monetize the down as well.
yeah, I so there's two things. One, I don't think that that's a priority for them. If it was my business, it wouldn't be a priority for me.
Okay.
I would be more paying attention to how do I maximize the best user experience for everyone as it currently sits, which is what they really need to do, get more efficient, which I think is part of this whole throttling thing, is you're not losing the efficiency of people being able to data scrape.
Yeah. I mean, it's the
And it
problem is it's
seems
going
like
to be
it seems like
trying to
that's what they're really trying to attack with this whole throttling thing.
yeah. I I I don't know that you're getting into very fact specific information. I just don't know.
Right.
But that seems reasonable.
And
Uh,
so I don't disagree. I think that something along the lines of what you're talking about that you could do that would be maybe half price. It's like $4 a month. You don't get the edit feature, but what you do get is you can have multiple different timelines, which means you could have instead of just having the I don't remember what they have now. They have the following and then they have like the for you
for you, yeah.
whatever. You could have multiples of those where you could have one that is strictly just your crypto. If you're into crypto, you could have crypto Twitter on that one. And then if you have this one, then this is politics and news. And then this one is, and you could have that, and that might make sense. Um, but I think you're going to fall into having an issue where people, one, don't know how to, as we talked about before, they don't know how to curate their info environment. So that's only really um, applicable to a certain demographic who is going to want to curate their info environment.
And I guess I'm assuming that if someone's using Twitter that much, they have, but that's probably not fair. Or they've done it more. I don't know what the people are that consume Twitter that voluminously.
I don't know the answer to that. What I do
So,
know is that the people that I have talked to that I would consider normies, they do not curate their info environment at all.
oh yeah, that I'm
They
very
don't
much
know
aware of.
how to do it. They don't understand why they should do it. They don't realize the value in it.
They don't
And
even know they
so,
have an info environment.
right. I mean, I think I don't know how many people you follow on Twitter. I know that I only have like 60 people total that I follow on Twitter. Some of whom don't really put much out there, right? But when they do, I find it worthwhile, so I want them in my feed so that I can pick that up.
Yeah.
It I would I'd have to do a search to find out, but I bet most people's Twitter is let's call it more robust. They have way more people that they're following.
Well, I think a
Because if you
lot of
think about it, when
people.
you sign up, they're pushing you to not necessarily creators as much as they are to like personalities.
Well, and I think a lot of people use the follow to train the algorithm and go primarily on the for you page or
Hmm.
whatever. I am almost exclusively on the following page.
Right. It's the only thing I
I'm like,
use.
what is all this crappy noise? Oh, I'm actually on the for you page.
Yeah. I mean, I got pissed whenever they switched. They changed something in the algorithm or
And it
in the
defaulted.
app so that it defaulted to the for you tab. And so like the people that I follow and people like us, like we were like, whoa, whoa, turn that shit off. I don't care about the, I have the people I'm following because I want to see what they have to say. I don't care about
Yeah.
all these other people out there in the ether. I you know, I
No,
just
I
like
mean,
I don't care what Ray J is doing this week or who Kim Kardashian's married to now. It doesn't make a damn to me.
right. I will say it's gotten better since Elon took over. The for you page is a lot more applicable. I have found some decent
Cool.
follows that way, but it's still way too
Never
noisy.
even looked at
Didn't intentionally look at it.
it. Never.
I just like, what? This is an interesting
No.
tweet. I don't remember following this person. Oh, I'm not following anybody. Okay, and
But
then follow and then switch. But yeah, no, I think that's fair. But that I think Elon is trying to make some changes and guide some changes and does seem to be doing better. So it could just be he knows better than me. Like I don't have any information. So you could very well be right that I'm
I mean, I'm
jumping the
just looking
gun.
at it from a business perspective of what it would take to put those things in without knowing what that payback's going to be and who's going to be willing to sign up for it. So it makes more sense from a business perspective to, you know, increase your efficiency first.
Well, and I, from a tech perspective, I somewhat disagree because I think the issue I see the problem as he needs more money to make the network more robust, and so the cost of these features from a tech perspective may not be that high. It may be copying, pasting existing services and cloning them into new ones. I'm guessing here without being able to see the code base or anything.
Right.
And maybe the problem is that the code base is so jacked up that because he did say that this is a garbled mess, which I believe.
Hmm.
Um, that as a result of that, they can't make those quick changes. That could very well be, but
Right.
so we're at this point. I think we're just guessing about guessing.
Yeah. I,
So
like I say, I'm just saying from like a business perspective what I look at.
sure,
Now, I could be wrong because, I mean, obviously Twitter's not necessarily something I would have started or a business I would have gone into, but so far be it for me to say what that should be. But